It just feels like it's been there since the start, to the extent where I would be vomiting and have to take days off school every month.
You are told that as a woman you'll have pain when you have your period, and I thought nothing of it.
I felt pain, and for some reason girls have been told to expect that.
It was stopping me from doing things, it was stopping me from walking, it was really uncomfortable.
So I kept going into emergency needing medication, and that's when you get accused of drug seeking.
I would be in tears because of the pain, but nobody ever told me that that wasn't normal.
As soon as that lunch bell rang and my kids were out of the classroom, I burst out into tears, and I went straight over to the office and I said, I can barely walk, I am in severe pain.
Had a massive impact in the relationships that I had.
I think for younger women, really the crucial thing is the mental health side that accompanies chronic illness.
But as soon as you'd pass that cycle and you stop feeling that pain, you start to second guess yourself and think, was I really in as much pain as I thought? Was I being dramatic? Was I hormonal? And you would start to second guess yourself.
When it gets to that acute, sharp pain, when it feels like who just stuck a Stanley knife in me, that's the stuff that's really difficult to handle, and it impacts on your work, it impacts on study, it impacts on social life.
I think that's one thing people don't realise about endometriosis is it's not always about the pain. Sometimes it's just so exhausting that you can't even get off the couch.
This stupid condition was controlling my life. You know, I was being ruled by this condition. You know, it was affecting my personal life, it was affecting my sex life, it was affecting my professional life. And the first option that he presented to me was that the one solution for this kind of symptoms and situations was what my mother had done, which was a radical hysterectomy. And I was 17, and I just remember sitting there thinking, is this person crazy?
It wasn't until I was about 21, 22 that the word endometriosis was even mentioned.
He asked me a series of questions because obviously sex was affecting my mental state quite significantly, which is something that a lot of people don't talk about. I didn't realise that with endo anxiety is really quite common.
That gynecologist said, well, before we do anything, we need to do a laparoscopy and have a look inside and see what it is. I suspect you've got chronic endometriosis.
I was crying because I was so scared they weren't going to find anything, and there'd be no reason whatsoever for me to be in that much amount of pain.
After the laparoscopy, he came out and he said, well, you'll be amazed to find out that it's right through you, that you've actually got quite extensive endometriosis, and you know, let me show you the sort of the photographs from the operation, and I remember just looking at him thinking, I did tell you.
I guess I felt positive because we had a diagnosis. You know, it's nice to be able to name what you've got.
I was actually quite excited to finally be able to get some answers. They had found endometriosis, moderate endometriosis, sitting all in my pouch of Douglas. So I had a lot of gastrointestinal issues.
I was treated at the time with an IUD. I don't suffer any of the symptoms of endometriosis, and I no longer have any pain.
Diet, exercise, naturopathy. I do yoga, so for meditation. That was a big turning point for me.
I got a gynecologist, an endocrinologist and a pelvic floor physio. So yeah, it was really, really good actually finding them. They helped me hugely.
It was an opportunity to, like I said, take the reins and tell a different story.
That you weren't crazy, you weren't flaky, you weren't putting it on and pretending to be in so much pain to get out of things. Just to have someone reassure you is so important.
I was really fortunate that I was able to have a doctor that saw me so quickly, was so confident, went straight in and removed it, and was always open to the idea that the surgery is not the cure, and it's such a multidisciplinary approach that you have to have.
The pain is real, the condition's real. It's not necessarily going to go away, but it's not going to rule me. I'm not going to let it impact on everything I do and every decision I make. I'm going to be the powerful one in this situation, and that's sort of how I've lived with it ever since.
And I think that's an important thing that women need to understand, is that if you know one person with endometriosis, you know one person with endometriosis, because it's such an individualised condition. It will present very differently from case to case.
I'm sure a lot of other women may relate to this. You actually don't know that you have the disease until it's gone.
I would say probably the biggest reason why my story is so much better than other women's stories, that I've had so much more success, is because of my gynecologist and my doctor.
The experience for her was a lot more positive than it was a while back when I was going through it.
You need to trust your instinct and you need to educate yourself when you do have any kind of chronic condition, especially endometriosis, because unfortunately a woman's pain isn't always taken seriously.
I think the only thing I'd say would be from the partner's point of view, like listen, invest yourself in it as much as what your partner is, because you're both going through it, whether only one of you is physically going through it or not, shouldn't have an effect on how invested you are into the actual situation itself. Just talk with your partner about it, because they're the one that's actually got the symptoms and everything that goes with it.
If the pain is that bad, if you're vomiting every month, if it's down the legs, if you can't move, if painkillers don't work, there's something wrong. Go get checked out, and if your doctor's unwilling, find another doctor.